Alright guys, so the last day or two I've not been as active, and if you really follow my channel, you might have noticed that. And I do apologize if you were eagerly waiting on the hour for my new uploads to drop the last couple days, but we have to have a real talk really fast, because the fate of the entire channel, and potentially YouTube, is up for discussion here. Allow me to explain. YouTube has always been a very let's just say, tumultuous platform to make a living off of. But at the same time, I try not to complain about it too much because, as I've said a trillion times, this has been my dream job, being a YouTuber, since I was just a little lad. The idea of people wanting to tune in to hear what my dumbass has to say has always been something that I yearned for, even when I was like 10 and 11. You know, I wanted to be a content creator, and I promise you, if my 10 or 11-year-old self could see me today, with the numbers I'm pulling today, he would be losing his mind. So, make no mistake, even if my YouTube career ended tomorrow, I would be eternally grateful to all of you for the time that you guys have given me to have with you. Making content for you, y'all watching me, listening to what I have to say, supporting me, whether it be kind words, donations, or just lurking and watching the stream, or my videos. It really does mean a lot. So, with that in mind, what are we talking about? What's going on? Well, yes, I'm very aware that YouTube is tumultuous at times. There's ups and there's downs. This is natural. But in the last couple months, notably since about August 10th is when most creators have been reporting it, there has been a, I won't say cross YouTube, but it really does seem like an anomalous, high amount of content creators are seeing a notable drop in their expected views. Now, if you are, maybe opening up Social Blade to look at my stats in another tab, which I recommend you do, you might notice something. My views are up. Especially on, like, the last 2 months, month scale. My views are up, quite notably, like something like 70%, so what's the matter? Well, I am coming out of a bit of a hiatus, like, 6 months of me not really being able to upload and stream as diligently as I would like. There's been some family health stuff that kinda threw my life upside down, and that was a whole thing, but coming back to it, I've been uploading extremely consistently, streaming extremely consistently, and that naturally equals more views, it equals more subs, we just hit 110k, and I'm very happy for this. But one thing that has become very clear, because I monitor the individual performance of videos, is a substantial drop in the amount of views that videos are getting on average, video by video. Occasionally, we still get the videos that break through, maybe every 5 or 6 uploads, I get a video that just pops off, hits 15, 20, 30,000 views. And it's like, okay, well, that's closer to normal performance for my channel, but usually I'd get a video like that once or twice a day, not once or twice a week. Isn't that thousands of subs in a couple days? Well, if you could see the rate at which they gain, it's very weird. It's like when one video manages to break through the algorithm, it gains me like 100 subs, maybe 150, 200 subs, but every other upload will just die out. And that, I'm getting to it. I'm getting to it, Lucky Otter. Now, a lot of creators have been reporting this across the platform as being a massive issue. You see, there have been a lot of theories as well. Restricted mode was one of them. The most common theory right now is that ad block has something to do with it. I actually planned on making a video that was talking about how ad block might be what is killing mine and many of your favorite creators' channels. And, it has a lot to do with the fact that recently there was an update made to a publicly available list of, I guess they're APIs that a lot of ad blockers use. And one of the things added to that list that a lot of ad blockers, such as uBlock Origin, use is something that blocks the ability for YouTube to tell whether or not you viewed a video. uBlock Origin and all the other major ad blockers have been made aware of this problem, and they've made their response. I believe their response was, and I quote, "The viewership of content creators online is not of our concern, only the privacy and safety of our users." And so, a lot of people were all like, yeah, W ad block, W ad block. But what that more or less means is, if this is being caused by ad block, they more or less said they will not be undoing this change. Which means across the board, if this is the new norm, there's some scary times ahead. Some real scary times. That is to say, my channel's going to have to somehow, against all odds, grow exponentially in order to average out a viewership that's going to make things sustainable in the future. And there have been a lot of suggested ideas as to what it could be that's doing this. What evidence do we have that it's caused by ad block? Well, let me go ahead and show you guys. Here is my last year of channel... Oh, wrong screen. Of channel performance based on device. Because this is the relevant thing. It's not the total amount of views coming in that's odd, actually. Well, it is. But there's a few odd statistics that I've been noticing that I want to talk about with you guys. I'm also making this video not just to encourage you guys to support the channel, you know, drop likes and comments to help boost things when, you know, the algorithm is in a really weird spot, but also because as a content creator, putting in a lot of work into getting content out consistently and diligently and trying to make it better and improve upon it constantly is a surprisingly stressful task. And when you consider that, like, you're not getting the obvious expected return for your work out of nowhere for seemingly no reason, it's really odd. Like, it doesn't feel good, and it burns you out. And so for creators out there that are panicking at seeing this weird video-by-video performance issue, you're not alone, okay? And I've got some info I want to share that might even bring a more positive view to this whole situation. Because I've been digging through my analytics and comparing them to the analytics of the hundreds of other large YouTubers that reached out to Josh Strife Hayes, who made a video about this whole situation. I mean, this is not just a me thing. This is across many niches. Many creators are all being affected by this. Some aren't. Some are seeing record high viewership, which I want to acknowledge in a moment. But what most people right now are honing in on is this really odd thing that's been happening in every affected creator's statistics data in the last 3 months, ever since August 10th is around when it starts. So, around late July is when I started really grinding to resume uploading again. You know, you can go back on my channel and see, and there's been obviously a pretty steady rise. That's going to happen when I go from not uploading much to uploading a lot. You know, it's gonna do that. But aside from that, do you notice anything weird about this most recent stint? Mind you, I started uploading again just after August 13th, so after the problem began, which means we don't have any, like, normal data in this area that we can really go off of to compare, like a drastic, like, whoa, what happened? You can't really tell. But I want you to look at this most recent month and a half, and I want you to look at the device lines here. Notably, mobile phone, the blue line, has always been my most, like, watched demographic. People on mobile have always been the ones who watched me the most. But you'll notice something. Computer has always been second place at about, it's actually closer to 30-something% of my audience, or 36% of my audience, but I'm gonna get to that, why it only displays as 28% here in a minute. Now, you might notice something about the shape of this green line, especially compared to the last year of performance. And I'm even going to show you guys the last channel lifetime of performance to show you the weird anomaly that's occurring at the moment. Now, to get into it, I want to explain that none of my content makes any sense to be recommended to any particular demographic more than another. My data is actually very reasonably broken down and representative of, like, YouTube's total user base. Roughly half the platform is on mobile, like a quarter is on computer, you know, like 10, 20% or 10, 11, 12% is on TV, with like another 10% or so on tablet, right? Like, that's about the breakdown of YouTube stats. And that's pretty solidly reflected in my channel's stats, which makes sense. I don't do content that, like, specifically caters to tablet, TV, computer, or mobile viewers. So, like, whatever demographic you're a part of, whatever, like, device you're a part of, if you're into my type of content, you're probably going to get pushed my content. And because most users on the platform are mobile, most of my viewers are mobile. Very simple stuff, right? But computer was always second place. And when you look at the past performance of my channel, you can see these big spikes are actually just from singular videos popping the fuck off. Sometimes there's like a really good week or something in there that causes a big spike. But you'll notice that like the green line follows the shape of the blue line pretty darn well. Like, look at all this in particular. It looks like banded rock, doesn't it? You know, sure, the green line isn't exactly on top of the blue line, but it, you know, the shape follows pretty darn concisely until post-August 13th, around here, where some really weird stuff starts to happen. I meant to grab a screenshot zoomed in on just the last 3 months so you could really get a good look at it, but this part here really shows it off, where these videos all spike up, or these days spike up, but here PC viewers just flatline. Here we get a massive spike in mobile viewers, but PC viewers just barely bump. They bump about as much as my TV and tablet audience. And you can see that like the line just doesn't look the same. There is a ridiculous gap between the blue and green line now. One that's never been present before, even when the channel's at its like absolute worst performing. And so that's weird, right? That's weird. Almost like, why would YouTube suddenly be telling me that a bunch of PC viewers are no longer watching the content? The number one theory is that AdBlock is blocking the views getting counted. And that essentially, when I put out a new video, or when many other creators put out a new video, while yes, a decent proportion of their audience is getting notified, and they're getting the video recommended, and then YouTube is gauging what percentage of those people click on the video and watch it and engage with it to determine how much to push it. What happens if let's say, what percentage of PC users within my audience do you think use AdBlock? Whatever percentage you think it is, just placehold that. Imagine that percentage of users who get recommended my video, click the video, as a lot of them seem to do when my click-through rate is unaffected by this, but then YouTube just doesn't count it. That's what's happening. YouTube is detecting a far lower CTR than I'm actually getting. In fact, I've been getting a very odd error when it comes to my CTR, where it'll even tell me your CTR is normal or is even higher than normal, but your video is appealing to a smaller audience than usual, which is a very odd message to get from YouTube when the video has like 18 minutes of average view duration, which is absurdly long. That was my most recent video, mind you. The video pulls 2,000 views in a day and a half, and it's like dead in the algorithm after a few hours, right? Yeah, it's collective punishment shit. Fuck over the creators for what the viewers do. It's not, though. It's not. It's completely in the hands of AdBlock to stop doing this. YouTube has no way to fix this problem. This is purely like AdBlock being the bad guys here. I will say, the biggest drop that we've experienced has happened in the last couple days, right here, this big like drop-off that happened here, which happens to line up when a really large YouTuber that I know many of you in my audience are fans of, based on the Clippies in chat, Louis Rosman, put out a video called Block All Ads, encouraging as many of his audience as possible to install AdBlock and run it on YouTube as a form of protest against YouTube. Not for doing this, but for just generally trying to fight back against AdBlock. Unfortunately, as much as ads might be shitty for the user, they are how content creators make their livelihood. And if you don't personally pay the creators that you watch and you block their ads, then eventually those creators can't afford to do what they do anymore. And that's kind of where we're at right now. That's kind of where we're at right now. We're like, AdBlock viewers are thought to be killing the channels that they watch because their AdBlocked view is not counting, it's not registering, and on top of that, what it's registering as falsely is an audience member shown the video who decided they weren't interested. And that right there, even 10, 15, 20 people doing that can be the difference between a video dying and being destined to die out in the algorithm in a few hours and potentially hitting massive virality. I don't know how I switched screens with the click of a button, but okay. So with that said, that's like the scary part of this video, okay? You know, and this is the part where you know, I have the obligated guys donate and subscribe and gift a sub and, you know, comment and like, and seriously, those things really do help, and you know, they help especially in times like this, and they really help when times are good, because then you're helping to like boost us even further and build a sort of buffer against future situations like this. But here's the part where I get a little optimistic, okay? Because I know that some YouTubers, fellow content creators, mid-size like myself maybe, will be watching this video and they're like terrified because their livelihood is on the line here, and they're like all in their head thinking, is this the new normal for YouTube? Is there any coming back from this? Is there any way that we go back to the way things were? You know, YouTube was always brutal, but at least there was like a method to the madness, you know, like if you played the algorithms right, you could achieve virality. You just had to study them well enough. Now that's just not the case. The game is purely stacked against you. So why do I feel a twinge of optimism? Well, like I said, I went back into my stats and I looked at the lifetime view statistics based on device on my channel. And then, of course, you know, this does kind of confirm the data that Josh Strife Hayes found, which was that, you know, on a lifetime scale, roughly 30% of my audience is on PC, and yet in just the last 3 months, or sorry, the last year, that's already dropped down to 28%. And if you count it for just the last 2 months, it's dropped down to 25%. So a pretty decent percentage of my audience, all from PC, have vanished exclusively on PC. Those viewers have vanished. And you can see it between those two stats. But I looked at my lifetime breakdown, and I know this looks very confusing. There's a lot of wild shit going on here, and it looks crazy. But what I want to point out here is that you can see the green, and you can see the blue. PC and mobile viewers. And this particular view really lets you see just how on top of each other these lines have historically been. But and if you look at it, 90% of the time, these lines are on top of each other, barring very, very few exceptions. Notably, literally, I zoomed in. I double, triple, quadruple fucking checked, guys. Do you want to know what date this is at the start of this very familiar-looking gap between PC and mobile viewers? All the way back in 2020. 5 years ago, something like this happened for 2 months. Do you want to know exactly what day it fucking started? August 13th. To the fucking day. Back in 2020, on the same exact day, the same exact thing happened. And not only did things go back to normal afterwards, but it was immediately followed by an October that was, you know, it was in August, September, and October that were really rough, followed by a November and December that peaked. They were literally my channel's all-time peak at the time. That came right after what was like a very weird stagnating period, as like you can see the view breakdown just completely diverges, much like it has today. When you look at this here, you can see the gap. And you can see it's very sparsely happened in other situations in the past, but this is not the first time we've seen a bizarre, at least in my channel's history. Granted, we're just going off of my channel's history, but there's no logic behind these things. This is not the first time we've seen a significant drop in the amount of PC viewers on my channel. And I'm really curious to see how this data would look next to other creators' data showing the same thing, if around the same time they've had similar drops. And so what I'm positing here is a theory, all right, is purely speculation based on my data, and it is largely copium. But if you're a content creator and you end up watching this video, I want you to go into your analytics data, and I want you to let me know in the comments down below whether or not you've found a similar thing, right? You guys will have to let me know, by the way, if you know, how long you've done YouTube as well. Like, I need to get an idea of like how big your sample size is to pull from. I've been doing this like hardcore for about 5 years now, so that's how much of a timeline I've got. But that said, you can see that something like this, even worse based on how much bigger the gap is than it is here, has happened before. And I swear I remember, like, oddly enough, like, the time leading into the election itself being weirdly dead for my channel in 2020 and being kind of stressed about it. So it's odd how, you know, we're seeing the same thing happen again. And I don't know exactly when this would have been. Would this have been, like, late 2021? I think I was pretty... I think I remember stressing late 2021 about things with the channel too back then. I think that's a whole year later. Now, here's my theory, guys. Are you guys ready to hear my theory? I have very little to go off of for this, but if I can get more YouTubers to show their data, then maybe we can substantiate this. And if my theory here is true, it is a very good thing for content creators. Historically, this has happened around the same time. In fact, we have 2 instances of it in my channel's history happening at exactly August 13th. Both in 2020 and in 2025, 5 years apart, same odd phenomenon of mobile and computer views diverging and views flatlining / kinda dipping a little bit. And it's like, okay, that's very odd, that's very strange, okay. What's going on here? What's going on? Well, I have a theory. If you're a content creator or you watch YouTube, you might have heard of a phrase called A/B testing. A/B testing means you're just testing thing A against thing B, and thing B against thing A, trying to see which of the 2 things does better at anything you're trying to test. Simple concept, right? Recently, or by recently I mean like 2 years ago, YouTube rolled out A/B testing as a concept for thumbnails, where you as a creator could make multiple thumbnails for a video, and then attach it to a video, or both those thumbnails, and YouTube will, for like the first hour or so, run a test to see which thumbnail gets the highest click-through rate, and automatically set that thumbnail to be the thumbnail for the video to help guarantee the highest chance of success. I've seen the Theorist channels do that, yeah. And also, they just recently, I mean, my channel just got it a few days ago, they just recently introduced title A/B testing as well. Here's the thing, though. I don't think A/B testing as a concept is new to YouTube, though. I don't think it's new, like 2 years new. I don't. I think behind the scenes, maybe over 5 years now, YouTube has been internally running A/B tests. If you read the subreddits dedicated to YouTubers, there's a phrase you'll hear come up very often called a hype. They'll talk about how there'll be stints of time where whatever garbage they put up on their channel, whether it be like absolute peak or a genuine dog doo-doo, just shit out video to get like a slot filled for an upload, right? They will be given a real fair shake in the algorithm, if not more than fair. You know, like, this is, think times like here. Like, I promise you, I was not working that hard to get this spike. Like, the time I was working to get these spikes was not that much harder than the time I was working to get these spikes, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes the algorithm is just nicer to you than other times, right? And has nothing to do with how much effort you're putting in, how good your videos are, how well you're editing, what your topics are. None of it really matters as much as whether or not YouTube is just cumulatively giving you some level of favoritism at certain times. And you can see there have been times where YouTube has done that, where like nothing about my content has changed, and yet we'll have a flat line, a massive spike, and a huge gain in subs, and then a bit of a dip and flat line again. This has happened a lot throughout the channel's history. It's because that's how the algorithm works, or at least I think it is. Other creators also think it is. That intermittently, maybe within quarters, think of it like yearly quarters of 3 months, YouTube puts you on the A side of an A/B test, meaning, let's say you're in a niche, and your niche is repairing lawnmowers, and there's like 5 creators who do, or 6 creators that do repairing lawnmower content. Let's say half the year, split up between periods of 3 months, 3 of those creators get a lot of the preference when it comes to recommending their content to people interested in that niche. Like, whoever is first to get the impression is almost always the A side of the A/B test, for in this example. And then when some arbitrary date arrives, the A/B test switches, and the channels that were on the B side are now on the A side, and all of a sudden their videos start popping off. Everything they do is effortlessly hitting the algorithm, and they get to enjoy that for the next few months until they're back on the B side again. Logically, this makes sense, because think about it. YouTube cannot create impressions to just give to creators that they favor. That's not like a thing that can be done. Impressions, as they're called, if you don't know what an impression is, it's like, here, let me actually just demonstrate it to you very quickly. We're gonna generate a bunch of impressions for content creators that I watch. Here we go. So when you go to the YouTube, God, that's annoying. When you go to the YouTube homepage and you load all these recommended videos right here on your homepage, you are generating what are called impressions. Here, Frankie on PC in 1080p just got an impression from me, because YouTube chose above anyone else to put his video on the top left here. If I choose not to watch this video, very minutely, because the video's got 2.4 million views, so it'll be, and probably tens of millions of impressions, my not clicking on it will probably make no difference, but it will, in some very decimal amount, lower this video's CTR or click-through rate if I choose not to click it. If I don't click this Star Talk video, I will lower their CTR ever so slightly. If I don't click this Binging with Babish video, I will lower their CTR ever so slightly. If I don't click this Lemino video, I will lower their CTR ever so slightly. And if I click it, I raise their CTR, telling YouTube that this was a good video from a good channel and I am interested. And YouTube will start recommending their content to me far more, giving far more impressions. If I too frequently choose not to click on a video like this, YouTube will receive the message that I am not interested in Lemino's content, despite the fact that I am. Maybe I'm just not in the mood to watch it now. YouTube doesn't know that, though. YouTube will just cease to recommend the content. Man, that video was 5 years ago. I know it feels like yesterday, but also another part of the algorithm a lot of people have been noticing is a lot of favoritism towards older videos. So like 6 months ago, 5 years ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. Yeah, the algorithm's been pushing a lot of older stuff lately, which is interesting. And that plays into my theory. What if these channels that we're seeing having their old content recommended super hard right now are on the A side of an A/B test? All these channels that we see with like 5 views in our recommended all the time, even though their CTR has to be garbage, because who the fuck is clicking and watching it? Clearly no one. It's still getting pushed. It's still getting impressions to anyone who even might be interested, because they're on the A side of the A/B test. There's only so many impressions. YouTube can't make more impressions for a video to receive, thus generating more views through those impressions. They can't make more happen. There's only so many people on YouTube every day, and those so many people are only going to refresh and go to their homepage so many times, meaning that in a given 24-hour span, there will be a set amount of impressions that happen on YouTube. No more, no less. YouTube cannot artificially create more. It's not like it's not the algorithm making up numbers or anything. That is how impressions work, okay? So when there's a limited amount of impressions that can be given in a day, and there are so many channels, with many of them all making amazing content, like all of them, and YouTube acknowledges the fact that like the diversity of content and the massive quantity of content existing on their platform is what makes the platform special and worth it. They do not want to destroy that about their platform. I promise you, they're not doing something behind the scenes to fuck over the meta of YouTube being a massive place with thousands and thousands and thousands of creators doing this for a living. They don't want to change that. They don't want to stop that. But in order to give all these creators the best chance to maintain their audiences, to grow their audiences, and to all get a fair shake in the algorithm and not be constantly in competition with each other, always battling over impressions and domination of the niche, doesn't it make more sense for YouTube to, behind the scenes, have been doing something we already know they recognize as a system, A/B testing, but with channels, where maybe there's 2 sets, who's to say? Maybe it's half of YouTube and another half of YouTube. Like half of YouTube gets all its impressions Thanos snapped, and 3 months later gets them all back, and the other half gets theirs Thanos snapped. It could be sets of 4. Maybe you're part of your channel gets their time in the spotlight every 6 or 9 months. And then you get 3 months of being in the spotlight, make the most of it, and then you get 9 months where you're not really in, right? You could argue that if YouTube were doing this and were upfront about it, this would be a very healthy way to run the platform. Creators would have a 3-month stint where they are highly encouraged to put out immense amounts of content, so they could spend 9 months of the year producing content in preparation to release in a condensed time frame within those 3 months. And the rest of the year, they could just get back to work and not really have to worry about going crazy on the algorithm, because it's not really going to be worth it. If 90% of the yearly views come in 3 months, then and you're still getting the same amount of views per year, I'd say it's a pretty healthy way for them to handle the platform. And I wonder if that's what they're doing. Every day there's more competition. AI slop is flooding the platform. So what if, and this is, I'm not just pulling this out of my ass, to be clear. We've got this data that shows this has happened before, where there was like a flat line for my channel, a little bit of a climb, but then a flat line, starting exactly on August 13th, that then ended in November and saw a spike. Do you know what happened here? Going into August, things were like, all right. Last year, going into August of 2024, coming out of August 2024, going into September and October here, like the channel was in its absolute worst time. Like I remember it was like Halloween and I was playing RDR2 Undead Nightmare and I was talking about how, man, guys, we might have to, we got to lock in or the channel's cooked because times are rough. Look at this big, dip right here. And then all of a sudden, at the start of November, boom, my channel hits its all-time best month ever. Well, best months ever in November and December going into 2025. Things kind of simmered down, mostly because I can't upload and stream as much, and now we're going back in. I'm like locking back in, but once again, it's in this period. It's exactly a year from this dip. Exactly a year from this dip. Exactly a year, I believe, from this dip, if I'm not mistaken. And then this is December right here. I've had dips around the same time, if not exactly the same time, almost every year historically, followed by, in November, a massive spike. So if your data looks like this, and you are also seeing the same kind of pattern and are experiencing the same kind of thing that I am, I think we might have a lot to be optimistic about, actually. Don't neglect to support the channel, mind you, if you're watching this and want to, help me out. But, think about it. The content, a lot of creators are being fucked over right now. Their stuff's not getting recommended. Their stuff is not getting pushed. It's just being flooded out. Their new videos are dying out. And yet there are a bunch of creators whose videos are doing really well and are getting pushed to me. Even their old stuff is getting pushed to everybody. Everyone's complaining about old videos being pushed to them. What if that just means these channels are on the A side of the A/B test right now? The people like Linus Media Group, me, Josh Strife Hayes, we're on the B side. So all of our videos are struggling, and our old content's not really getting recommended because these A-side channels right now are getting their new and old stuff recommended. Here's a good way to test this, actually. Let's see. Lemino. Has Lemino uploaded recently? At all? 3 months ago, it was a members-only video. Ah, damn. He hasn't uploaded for us to pull a test from. Let's see. Oh, wait, actually, this is very good. I have vidIQ. This is very handy. This is actually very interesting. And anomalous, by the way. Lemino's views are up 9% in the last 7 days. And he's not uploaded in over a month. And he hasn't uploaded a proper video in over a year, almost 2 years now. Which goes to show that YouTube is currently pushing his old entire catalog of content right now like crazy. And I know this because there are big channels, bigger than Lemino, who have a really good backlog of content that I've been rewatching lately, and my vidIQ add-on has been telling me they're down 2 to 3 to 5% viewership in the last week. And that is because their consistent income of views has dropped because, they're not either losing views because of this problem, or they're not uploading naturally because they're in a hiatus. This creator is in a hiatus and gained 10% on their viewership in the last week. Like, that is fucking insane. And I think really good evidence that Lemino is on the A side of an A/B test. Right now, he should really release a video to make the most of it, but, you know, he's doing his own thing right now. I'm sure he's working on something. Granted, he doesn't really... He's so big of a channel, he doesn't have to worry about, like, any failure of any kind, you know? So he doesn't really have to, like, plan around stuff like this. Once you're a certain size, this kind of thing isn't a problem. But, like, the more I look at the data, the more it seems like this is why old content and channels from other countries and small channels are getting recommended. They're part of the, let's ballpark, 50% of YouTube right now that is not Thanos snapped. And if we go off the pattern, starting not in October, but at the end of October, beginning of November, we might see a big switch. We might see all the channels that are on their highest high right now, you know, go back to just a baseline, a plateau, maybe even seeing an equal drop to what we're going through. And we might be back to gaining, even without trying. When I say gaining without trying, like the algorithm playing favorites, I mean gaining 10% viewership over the course of the last 7 days, despite not having uploaded in a year. You know, like that's not normal for YouTube. The longer you go without uploading something, the less YouTube typically pushes your stuff, at least historically. This is an anomaly that it can only be explained, in my view, by my theory. And so, this video might have started as a little bit doomer, like me being like, oh yeah, the channel's in a rough spot, it's dangerous. It is. You know, I do want you guys to support the channel, helping out the channel, helping out me financially with all that stuff. It really does help a lot. You know, whether this be the channel's end or we're just in a rough patch before we're on the A side of the A/B test and we end up you know, being back on top of the world again. You know, we still got a month or so to ride out with things being pretty tough. So you guys supporting the channel, even in the best case scenario right now, is more important than ever, and I really do appreciate it. And to all those creators that may have potentially watched this video, I hope I was able to give you a peace of mind, and not just a bit of copium, but a legitimate bit of evidence and a theory that could be a positive scenario. And I think that it's possible both these things are true, by the way, that the ad block problem is happening and YouTube is A/B testing content. I also think it's possible that the A/B testing could be restricted to certain platforms in order to prevent channels from just completely dying. Like, think about it. YouTube wouldn't just want to completely kill off channels that aren't on the A side of the A/B test. So instead of just choking out all of their impressions, maybe they experiment a little bit and they choose computer. Honestly, I think it would be easier to experiment with this kind of thing on computer because there's no app. PC users are just on the website. When you refresh the page, the website updates. So you don't have to like force people to download an experimental app update or something. It just updates on the back end, and the front end is also updated for the users, right? So maybe PC is exactly where YouTube does this kind of weird stuff, things like A/B testing, and maybe when they are doing something like this, historically, we do see it reflected primarily in the computer viewership, because that's what I've seen historically, though it's very possible, if you want to dig into it, that these past dips in PC viewership correlate directly to crazy ad block dramas that have happened in the past. It's very possible. With that said, if you enjoyed this video, if you want to support my content, which is more important now than ever if you want it to continue to exist, then please consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really does help a lot. Subscribe and ring the bell icon so you can see more from me, and YouTube might tell you when I go live or upload more stuff in the future. Join my fan Discord, link down below, and follow my social medias. And if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merch through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me though, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.